Oh, what's going on guys, Kate is here and welcome back to a brand new video. For today I will show you the best sharpshooter PvE build in Lost Ark. So in this guide I will show you what abilities and awakening skill you want to get. Then I will explain what are the best engravings and cards to use for endgame content. And then lastly I will show you the best gameplay and even which stats you need to allocate for PvE, so you would be able to get the best results and highest damage possible and much more. So no matter how low or high level or gear score your character is, you can easily use this build and follow the step-by-step guide. So if this sounds interesting to you, then let's get right into it. So the sharpshooter has skills with low cooldowns and quick animations. The monster clearing speed might be slower than compared to other classes, but his mobility helps in avoiding hits and dealing consistent damage to the enemies during the leveling and dungeon farming process. So then at the endgame we will be using the Death Strike engraving, which will revolve around building the sharpshooter's meter. In addition, some skills have tripods which will boost the speed in which you will be able to fill this meter to full. So when your Hawk meter is at full, you can activate the Summon Silver Hawk to gain access to Wings of Storm and Last Rush abilities, which will do huge amount of damage and much more. So if you are looking for the best leveling, raiding, chaos dungeon or any other PvE content build, then this is the one for you. Okay, so now let's move over to the build itself, and these are the skills you want to have. So then for the first ability we have the Atomic Arrow, and this time we use just 4 levels to unlock the amplified damage, and then lastly for your rune you want to get the Bleed. Then for the second ability we have the Arrow Wave, and we use 10 levels to select the Enhanced Arrow, Slow Tide and Wave Streak. And then for your rune you want to get the Gale Wind. Then for the next one we have the Charged Shot ability, and we use 10 more levels to select the Quick Preparation, Double Shot and Fast Fire. And then lastly for your rune you want to get the Focus. Then for the fourth ability we have the Sharpshooter, and we use 10 levels to select the Vital Point Strike, Weak Point Detection and Focus Shot. And then lastly for your rune you want to get the Focus. Then for the next one we have the Deadly Slash skill, and this time we use just 4 levels to unlock the Silver Master. And then lastly for your rune you want to get the Wealth. So then for one of the last abilities we have the Moving Slash, and we use 4 more levels to select the Excellent Mobility. And then for your rune you want to get the Rage. Then for the 7th ability we have the Blade Storm, and we use 10 levels to unlock the Silver Master, Lightning Blade and Blade Dance. And then for your rune you want to get the Wealth. And then for the last and final ability we have the Snipe, and we use our last 10 levels to select the Quick Preparation, Weak Point Detection and Easy Prey. And then lastly for your rune you want to get the Gale Wind. Then as well after level 50 for your awakening skill you want to get the Golden Eye. But if you haven't reached level 50 yet, then here's a specific guide on which abilities you should upgrade first while leveling with the sharpshooter. And then on top of all this, focus on equipping as high item level gear as you can. And then at the endgame you should have 900 crit, 300 specialization and 400 swiftness. But again, if you haven't reached this point yet, then try to have around 60% stats into crit, 20% stats into specialization, and then the rest 20% stats into swiftness. Okay, so then the way I would recommend to upgrade this build is at level 50, you will get around 250 points. So this is how your build should look like. But then by doing more and more endgame content you will get more points. And at the absolute endgame, this is how your build should look like with all the 410 skill points. So at the start you use the 252 point build, and then by leveling up and completing quests you will get more points. So just keep on improving your skills and getting higher tier runes as well. So then let's move over to the engravings, and you want to get the Death Strike. This engraving will apply a big 40% increased damage debuff on the enemy for the next 8 seconds. Then for the second one we have the Hitmaster engraving, and this will synergize very well with Sharpshooter since the majority of your skills do not have a back attack or head attack modifiers. Then the next one is called the Keen Blunt Weapon, and this engraving complements really good with the high crit rate tripods. Then for the fourth engraving you want to get the Loyal Companion. This will give you plus 8% movement speed and 14% increased damage debuff while the Silver Hawk is summoned. The 30% meter recovery helps you spam the Last Rush more often. and we are using this engraving because at the real endgame, which is the tier 3, both engravings called Dead Strike and Loyal Companion are used together for the highest damage possible. Then the next one is called the Grudge, and this is more advanced engraving that is recommended for tier 3 content, just like the previous one. This Grudge is the most efficient engraving against mobs and you will get your damage increased, but in return you will take 20% more damage. So when you get to the very end game content, which is called the tier 3, then get this engraving, and before using it, get it to at least level 2, because at level 1 this engraving is not that efficient. And then for the last engraving we have the Cursed Doll, and this is a significant attack power increase at the cost of 25% healing penalty. This penalty can be offset by paying more attention on dodging red AoE circles or by using healing potions more often. So then in a quick summary, I would recommend to get the top 3 engravings first and then the bottom 3. And then last but not the least, let's move over to your cards. And you want to get the Armin, Syria, Solus, King Tyrane, Carmen and Delane Armin. In general, these cards are an endgame system for maximizing your character, so you don't have to get them right away. But these specific cards will optimize your damage output in PvE even more. I did bunch of testing for this build and this was the best and most optimized card set. Okay, so then moving over to the gameplay, and if you have played this class while leveling, you will be very familiar with the skills, so I will just try to give you a short description. So then for the first 2 abilities we have the Snipe and Arrow Wave, and these are your main 2 biggest damage skills. Then the next ability, called the Atomic Arrow, is a simple skill that will apply a debuff to your enemies, so try to use it as much as you can. Then for the next 2 abilities we have the Charge Shot and Sharpshooter, and these are your main stagger skills that will do damage and at the same time stun your enemies. Then for the next pair of skills we have the Blade of Storm and Moving Slash, and these abilities deal damage close to medium range, and at the same time you will increase your meter to fill up a lot faster. And then as well, the same Moving Slash can be used for mobility, as it will make your character dash forwards for 8 meters. And then moving over to the last and final ability, which is called the Deadly Slash, and this is your one and only counter skill that you will be able to use on endgame bosses to counter their skills, and at the same time you will inflict pretty nice amount of damage. And then lastly, our Awakening skill is called the Golden Eye, and this ability will summon 4 golden hawks that will fly around your character, creating a whirlwind that will do a lot of damage and throw your enemies in the air. I usually use the skill on endgame bosses or when I need more damage, as this ability grants you fast animations and high damage. Okay, so then let's take a closer look at your best skill rotation, and I will give you 2 options. The first one will be around focusing on your hawk meter, and the second option will be a normal damage rotation. So then first of all, for the highest damage rotation, at the beginning we want to use the Moving Slash, then the Blade Storm, and then finish it off with the Deadly Slash. Then at this point your meter should be at full, so use the Atomic Arrow to debuff the enemy, and then activate your hawk meter by using the Silver Hawk, then the Wings of Storm, and then finish it off with the Last Rush. Then for the second rotation we use our Snipe ability, then the Charge Shot, then the Arrow Wave, and then we finish it off with the Sharpshooter. So what I usually do is I combine both of these rotations in one big rotation, and this will give us super high damage. But if any of your skills are on cooldown or you don't have time for a full rotation, then you're feel free to use the first or the second rotation depending on what type of mobs you're fighting and how much damage you want to be doing. So then in a quick summary, with this one big rotation which is split into 2 parts, in the first one we used our 3 simple damage skills that will do damage and give you the highest meter gain. Then we use our ability called Atomic Arrow, which will debuff the enemy. Then when our meter is at full, we get to use 3 special skills that will give us very high damage, and then the last third skill, which is called the Last Rush, will activate our Dead Strike engraving, which will debuff the enemy for the next 8 seconds, and this will give us plus 40% increased damage. So then the second part comes in play, where we use our huge damage kills while at the same time refilling the next meter, and that's about it. So now in my last and final conclusions for this build. As we're using the Dead Strike engraving, by activating the Last Rush ability, we will get a plus 40 increased damage for 8 seconds. So when you activate the Last Rush, remember to use your biggest damage kills to deal bunch of damage. Then remember that this Sharpshooter build focuses on getting high crit stats on all the accessories, and then the specialization stat on your necklace. And then lastly, the Sharpshooter class is not a fully ranged character, as you might otherwise believe. So to generate identity for your meter, you will have to get into a melee range for Moving Slash, Deadly Slash, and Blade Storm. So be careful about your positioning in endgame dungeons, and that's about it. So I really do appreciate everyone for watching, guys, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any suggestions, feedback, or other good Lost Ark PvE classes that you would like to see in the next video, then feel free to leave your comments in the comment section down below. And while you're doing that, please click like, subscribe, and enable that notification bell, so this way you could support the channel and you won't miss any more amazing content from me. With all this said, you have an amazing day, and I'll catch you in my next video. So take it easy, peace.